Welcome to Little English Studio, where English learning meets the inspiring stories of the world's greatest people. Today, we will explore the life of a man who turned a crazy dream into one of the most famous brands in the world. His name is Phil Knight, the co-founder of Nike. This is not only a story about shoes, it is a story about dreams, risks, failures, and victories. It is about a shy boy from Oregon who loved running and who built a company that changed the world of sports, fashion, and culture forever. So let's begin the full life story of Phil Knight, the man behind the swoosh. Philip Hampson Knight was born on February 24, 1938 in Portland, Oregon, USA. His father, William W. Knight, was a lawyer and later the publisher of a newspaper called the Oregon Journal. His mother, Lota Hatfield Knight, was a kind and gentle woman who supported him quietly. Phil grew up in a middle-class family. They were not poor, but they were not rich either. His father believed strongly in hard work. He didn't like giving money easily to Phil. He wanted his son to earn everything on his own. This lesson would later shape Phil's character deeply. As a boy, Phil was shy and quiet. He was not the loudest or the most confident in the room, but he loved sports. Running was his favorite. He discovered early that running gave him peace and energy. At Cleveland High School, he joined the track team. He was not the fastest runner, but he was dedicated. He respected athletes who pushed themselves beyond their limits. This respect for sports and athletes would later become the heart of Nike. After finishing high school, Phil attended the University of Oregon. There, his life changed forever. At the University of Oregon, Phil joined the track team under the legendary coach Bill Bowerman. Bowerman was not just a coach, he was a creative mind who always experimented with shoes to help his runners go faster. He cut, shaped, and redesigned shoes to find new ways of improving performance. Bowerman believed that better shoes could make better athletes. Phil admired his coach's passion. He also became close to him, both as a runner and later as a business partner. At Oregon, Phil studied journalism. He wrote for the student newspaper. But more importantly, he absorbed the values of discipline, hard work, and innovation from both his studies and his running. He graduated in 1959. At that time, he had no clear idea of what to do with his life. He only knew one thing. He wanted to create something big. After graduation, Phil served in the U.S. Army Reserve for a year. Then he decided to continue his education at Stanford Graduate School of Business. At Stanford, he took a class in entrepreneurship. In that class, he had to write a paper on a new business idea. Phil had always been fascinated by running shoes. Most good shoes came from Germany at that time, like Adidas and Puma. But Phil thought, what if high-quality shoes could be made in Japan at a lower cost? His paper was called The Crazy Idea. It suggested that Japanese companies could produce shoes as good as German ones, but cheaper, and that the American market was ready for them. This paper would later become the blueprint for Nike. After business school, Phil wanted to test his idea. In 1962, he traveled around the world. This trip changed his life. When he reached Japan, he visited the company Onitsuka Tiger, which was making shoes. He was impressed by their products. Boldly, Phil introduced himself as the head of a small American company called Blue Ribbon Sports, even though it didn't exist yet. He convinced Onitsuka to export their shoes to America. This was the beginning. Phil Knight had just made his first big move. Back in Oregon, Phil received his first shipment of Onitsuka Tiger shoes. He started selling them at track meets directly from the trunk of his car. Athletes loved the shoes. They were light, comfortable, and affordable. Phil was thrilled. Slowly, sales increased. Soon he could not do it alone. So he partnered with his old coach Bill Bowerman. Together, they officially formed Blue Ribbon Sports, BRS, in 1964. Bowerman not only invested money, but also brought his creativity. He continued experimenting with shoe designs, while Phil handled the selling and business side. It was a perfect team. But success did not come easily. For years, Phil kept his job as an accountant while selling shoes on the side. He needed a stable salary to survive. He worked long hours, balancing numbers in the day and selling shoes at night. The company was small, and money was always a problem. Sometimes they almost went bankrupt. Phil often borrowed money from banks, family, and friends. But he never gave up. He believed in his dream. Blue Ribbon Sports grew slowly. By 1971, the partnership with Onitsuka Tiger started to fall apart. Phil realized he needed his own brand if he wanted to survive. In 1971, Phil and his team decided to create their own line of shoes. They needed a name. One employee suggested Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. The name was short, powerful, and memorable. They also needed a logo. A young graphic design student, Carolyn Davidson, created the swoosh for just $35. At first, Phil wasn't too impressed, but later, the swoosh became one of the most famous logos in the world. That year, Nike was officially born. From the beginning, Nike was different. Phil and Bowerman focused on innovation. Bowerman invented the waffle sole by experimenting with his wife's waffle iron. This design gave runners more grip and speed. It became a huge success. Nike also invested in athletes. They believed that if great athletes wore Nike shoes, the world would notice. They signed contracts with track stars and runners. This strategy worked. By the late 1970s, Nike was growing fast. Sales reached millions of dollars, but Phil was not satisfied. He wanted Nike to be the #1 sports brand in the world. In the 1980s, Nike faced strong competition from Adidas and Reebok. They needed something powerful to stand out. That's when Nike launched the slogan, "Just Do It," in 1988. The slogan was simple, but it touched people deeply. It was not only about sports, it was about life. It told people, don't wait, don't think too much, just do it. The campaign was a huge success. Nike became more than a shoe company. It became a symbol of motivation, courage, and achievement. One of Phil Knight's greatest moves was signing a young basketball player named Michael Jordan in 1984. Nike created the Air Jordan shoes, which became a cultural phenomenon. Air Jordans were not just shoes. They were fashion, identity, and status. Every kid wanted a pair. The success of Air Jordan made Nike a global giant. From then on, Nike expanded into all sports: football, tennis, golf, and more. They signed legends like Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, Cristiano Ronaldo, and many others. But Nike's journey was not perfect. In the 1990s, Nike faced criticism for using sweatshops in developing countries. Phil Knight was forced to take responsibility. He made big changes, improving working conditions and increasing transparency. These challenges were painful, but they made Nike stronger. Phil showed that a company could learn from mistakes and grow. Phil Knight stepped down as CEO of Nike in 2004, but his influence remains everywhere. Nike is today the largest sportswear company in the world, worth billions of dollars. Phil also became one of the world's greatest philanthropists. He donated billions to education, health, and research, especially at Stanford and the University of Oregon. He also wrote a memoir called Shoe Dog in 2016, which tells the raw, honest story of Nike's early struggles. The book became a bestseller and inspired entrepreneurs everywhere. Phil Knight's life is proof that a crazy idea can change the world. He was a shy boy from Oregon, but he believed in his dream. He worked hard, took risks, faced failures, and never gave up. Today, every time we see the Nike Swoosh or hear "Just Do It," we are reminded of his journey. His story teaches us that success is not about being the loudest or the strongest. It is about persistence, vision, and the courage to just do it.